I'm with Cathy Hellier with the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation. Cathy is an historian, and today she's going to be talking about 18th century dancing. So, Cathy, describe for us what an evening ball would be like from start to finish.
Well, a ball that was held in an evening would have guests arriving maybe six or seven, typically, not always, but around that time period. And generally, there was a master of the ceremonies, and the master of the ceremonies' job was to know who was in attendance and what social rank they were, because the minuets were performed by social rank. You would take the highest ranking gentleman, or if it was a ball in honor of ladies, usually the highest ranking lady, and pair them up with the highest ranking person of the opposite gender. And all those who chose to do minuets would then do them one after another, after another, after another, for as long as people wanted to do them. Everyone else watched and critiqued and gossiped and so on. And then after the minuets were finished, they usually proceeded to country dances. These were often done in long way sets. If you have seen some of the Jane Austen movies, you know what that looks like. Gentlemen on one side, ladies on the other. And the top couple would dance down the set, kind of activating couples as they went, and then dance all the way back up the set. So each one could take quite a bit of time. There were various ways that the masters of ceremonies might determine who had what place in the set. Sometimes places were drawn for, sometimes they were assigned. There were various ways of doing that. But the importance of that was that the lady at the top of the set for that particular dance got to choose the dance. And so there she is at the top determining what everyone else is going to do.
So, Cathy, talk to us about the difference between a public ball and a private ball. What would they be like?
Well, a private ball, it makes sense, is private. It is by invitation, and it usually commemorates some kind of activity. For example, if the governor held a private ball, it would probably be for maybe for Christmas, might be for the Queen's birthday or the King's accession date, something like that. If someone, perhaps a middling planter, hosted a private ball, it might be for the christening of their child or something like that. So it was by invitation, it was private. A public ball, on the other hand, is public. Usually tickets were sold, and it was held in a central location where people could easily come. So that's the essential difference between a public ball and a private ball. One's by invitation, one's usually by ticket.
Cathy, talk to us about the etiquette or manners that were expected for ball attendees.
Well, etiquette at balls was kind of an overlay on general everyday etiquette as well. For example, when a person entered a room, it was expected that they would bow or curtsy, depending on gender, to the other people in the room as they entered, and then sort of bow and curtsy to each person they met until they were seated. That, of course, is going to happen at a ball as well. And the etiquette is a little bit of what I mentioned before about the ordering of the minuets from upper social level to lower such social level. That's part of it too. Another important part of etiquette at a ball is inviting someone to dance. And of course, men are always inviting the ladies to step a country dance.
When people think of going to a ball, they think of courtship and they think of partnering off and finding someone. Could you describe what courtship was like on the dance floor?
Well, courtship was an important reason for learning how to dance, because first of all, you would be attending dance events, and that would put you out there to meet other people. It's important to know that ladies did not just go to a dance with a man. They would generally go with their families. Dating did not really take place in the same way. A man didn't take an unmarried woman to a dance. He might go home with her, take her home, but she arrived with her family. And so courtship was kind of under the eye of the family. But the neat thing about these country dances is that you've got to be across from each other all the way down the set, all the way up the set. You had ample time to talk. You got a chance to hold hands and that sort of thing. But also, it was really important in the sense that a man looking for a wife, for example, a man who was maybe upper level county gentry, who expected to be elected to the House of Burgesses or perhaps even another colonial office or something to, and he would expect to take part in some of these upper level dance events in his future. He's going to look for a young lady who can dance, who won't embarrass him in that sort of situation.
Cathy, can you share with us any embarrassing anecdotes or any funny stories that happened on the dance floor in the 18th century, particularly in Virginia?
Well, in the 18th century, it was kind of a cruel time period because you were expected to understand all of this social etiquette, and you were supposed to have been able to master it all. So you were supposed to be able to do a flawless minuet, and you were supposed to be able to understand what to wear and how to act. And you find in diaries and letters descriptions of people who didn't quite make the mark. And if you exhibited yourself in a minuet, for example, or in a public place, not doing things appropriately, it was understood that you left yourself open to public criticism. So you find this in letters and diaries and in novels as well. But people are really critiquing by the criteria that they knew how you performed in public. So, for example, kind of early in the 18th century, there was a Captain Smith's son who stepped a minuet at the Capitol at a ball hosted by the governor. And the diarist William Byrd said that he made a sad freak. So, poor Captain Smith's son was being evaluated. We have two different evaluations by two different people of a man named Captain Grigg on the northern neck. About 10 years apart, where the second one said his minuet was the most ludicrous thing she had ever seen. The first one said, that it was very, gave an unfavorable review and said that the whole assembly laughed. And the 18th century also was kind of skillful. People then were kind of skillful at saying, oh, well, I'm laughing, but not necessarily at you. So some of these folks didn't actually catch on. It was kind of a cruel time period. On the other hand, there was some kindness shown to young people who made mistakes on the dance floor. There was a poem in the Virginia Gazette about a young lady who tripped during her minuet and actually apparently fell flat on her face in front of everyone. And this poem is apparently by a young man who's helping her feel better by saying that, Venus was jealous and caused Cupid to trip her and so on, and kind of reassuring her.